Okay, we are going to do a little demonstration on a painted sphere. So for your task number 3, I have you paint 3 different spheres. And the reason I do this is because a lot of you probably haven't worked in acrylic paint yet. And it's a little bit of a different medium to work with. And what our focus today is just to learn how to blend, familiarize ourselves with paint, and learn how to get dark mediums and lights. So here's my sphere. I'm going to use a green color. I have a couple colors on my palette, but what we're going to do is this is a light green, and I think this will show up on the dot cam. I tried a purple, but it was a little too dark for you guys to see. I've got some titanium white, and I've got a Mars black. And I always want, when I'm painting anything, to use black and white because you're going to need tints, and the medium color, which is our green, which is our hue, and then we want to have shades. So I always paint with a paper towel. At my side, I'm right-handed, so I like to put it to the right. I have some water, some little cup of water, and I am using a round-tipped paintbrush. You can use whatever your preference is. Some people really prefer the square as opposed to the round. That's fine. So on my palette, I'm just going to mix the actual paint color. I'm going to mix the tint of the paint color by adding white. And then I'm going to mix the shade by adding, you guessed it, black. So I'm going to grab some more of that green. I'm going to add some of this Mars black. Not heavy black. And I don't always prefer to use black for shading, but for this exercise we are. And you can kind of familiarize yourself with how that works. Now my darkest green that I'm going to use, and this is quite thick. So before I go on, what I like to do if the paint's too thick, I dip my paintbrush in water and I just mix it into that paint. Not so it's watery like watercolor, but just so it's a nice consistency that I've really loaded my paintbrush and it's not dripping by any means. But then I can get, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the green and I'm going to outline my sphere with this darker green. And if it's so thick and clumpy, I get a really rough edge. But if I've thinned it out, I can get a nice smooth edge. The negative about thinning out, sometimes you thin out too much. And then can you see how I'm getting like light spots here that I can see through and see my paint strokes? Sometimes I don't want to see those paint strokes, so you might have to do a few coats of that, and that's fine. Just takes more time. So the lighting and the color transfer on this projector is kind of yucky. So I really hope you can see the different values that I'm going to show you here. So that is my tinted green, and I'm going to add some of just the light green, the actual green, and I'm going to put a little bit more on my palette here. I didn't quite put enough. When you're doing a sphere, this sphere is about the size of an orange that I've drawn. Don't paint small. It is so hard to get the right values shown if you draw it the size of like a 50-cent piece. I have students do that and it's just really difficult. And then you feel like you don't love painting, and it's not that you don't love painting, you just don't want to start out small when you're new at this. Okay, so I'm just using a straight color out of the tube, and I'm really layering, and I'm getting kind of thick, and that's great. And I can't remember if I told you, but I'm just painting on poster board right now, and I'm using the dull side. The shiny side is slick, and I kind of fight it when I have to use that. So I really want to decide what corner my light source is coming from, and I've decided the right side. And so now I have this nice light side. Because I'm painting wet on wet, I can, and my straight green out of the tube is still nice and wet, I can really blend that in, and it's picking the color up quite nice. I'm taking my straight green out of the tube, and now I'm kind of going over that darker green. And black's funny, man. When you mix black with the green, sometimes it can turn into a pukey green that you don't like. You can then take other colors to make it look dark but maybe not pukey, like you could add a navy blue. If you're not liking the green you're getting, you can take red. Any complementary color really helps. I'm adding more light. Now I'm adding some more of the medium. back on this edge. A mistake that beginners will make is they'll take that highlight and they run it right to the edge. And sometimes that's true, but not always. And so you want to be careful not to get too light right to the edge, so all of a sudden it seems like stripes of light, medium, and dark. This is a sphere, so we really want to paint in the direction of the object itself. And I'm going to keep adding my light. And I just want to take like straight white now, adding it right onto there, mixing all this light in there. And I think that looks pretty nice. A lot of times when I paint, I blur my eyes to see what I'm missing, what value I'm missing. That kind of helps me. And it's not perfectly blended. I kind of like when I can see this painterly brushstroke thing going on. And I like that. Okay. I'm thinking I'm about at a stopping point. This isn't like a perfect sphere, but I do think you get the idea that we have highlights, your midtones, your darker shadows. You know, I've told you you need to do about 3 different spheres. I'm just showing you the basic techniques. So shiny ball, you have much more of a darker stripe. You have like a really light highlight that's very strong, where you're taking like straight white, and then I would take more of your green, add some black. In fact, I'm going to add a little purple and darken that up. The purple gives it a little bit of a warmer instead of just kind of a different dark green. And I'm really going to use this to create, if you want a really strong shadow that's happening on this sphere. I was done before, but now I'm just kind of showing you one of the different sphere techniques. And now I've created this dark line of a shadow that's happening here, and it's softening up on the edge, and I like that. But I've also left a reflected shadow, which gives that 3D roundness to it still, which I really like. And I'm going to darken this up just a little bit. I don't like this super, super sharp edge. All I did is take like a medium shade and add it to this highlighted part just because it was a little strong for me. Okay, I think the reflected light below, I want to lighten that up maybe just a little bit. So I added the highlight, and now I'm going to add a little bit of the mid-tone on top of it because that was a little light. Okay, that's another stage. I'm going to stop demonstrating because I could just paint forever and keep talking forever, and I know you guys are anxious to start your painting. So just remember black, white, and whatever color you're using, and then you create the light and the medium and the dark tones before you even start, and draw your circle. Try and get a better circle than I did. And I would just start with the basic one that I taught you first, and then try 2 other techniques, like maybe the glass one and then the stone one, or the leather one. But I would start, like I said, with the basics. So why don't you try that, and good luck.